When you think about epic racetracks, you think of Mount Panorama, Bathurst. It's a circuit that has plenty of character and demands the utmost respect. From the moment the flag drops on pit straight, you charge through Hill Corner and up the mountain at a rapid pace. The climb to the top is a twisty, undulating affair. Before you reach skyline, more than 170 metres above where you started. No time to check out the scenery though. Then it's the descent, manhandling your way through the maze of corners that is the Essers, the Dipper, and ultimately to Forest's Elbow. From there, you open the taps and run down Conrod at 270 kilometres an hour, where before you know it, it's through the fastest corner in our sport at the Chase. And if you're close enough, and if you're brave enough, you can slip past your opposition and gain a spot or two. Then you hit the repeat button and keep it on for 6 straight hours. But don't lose your focus. This place is extremely unforgiving. The old adage, win on Sunday, sell on Monday, had its genesis right here. But then again, so did much of our sport. This Easter marks 80 years since wheels first turned on this most hallowed racing ground. Today, 62 cars representing 17 brands and 150 drivers across 7 classes have converged on the mountain for the ultimate Showroom Showdown. This is the Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour.
Good morning and welcome to Mount Panorama, and a big happy Easter to everybody watching live around the world. Today might be April 1st, but this is absolutely no joke right here for an April Fool's Day. We are here for the 2018 Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour, and I'm your host, Becky Lamb, joined by John Hindhoff. You are the international voice of motorsport and endurance expert. Welcome to Mount Panorama.
Thank you very much. An honour to be here. I was worried that you looked at me when you said it was April Fool's Day. Absolutely no joke at all here. Fantastic to be at Mount Panorama. Always a great place to come to. And a first for me with the production cars at Mount Panorama.
Now let's take a real quick chat about this event. This has grown so quickly in the 3 years that it's been here.
Only the 3rd year, and you get the feeling, don't you, looking up and down this pit lane, certainly looking behind the pits at the paddock, that this is a well-established event. I came to the 12 hours, the endurance race at the start of the year, after year number 6 actually, and this has already got the feeling that that event had then. It's growing quickly, and of course it reflects the absolute love affair that Australia has with production motorsports.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are looking forward to a huge day today, but not for too long away. Right now we're going to head up to the commentary box and say hello to our good friend Richard Crowell.
62 cars across 7 classes have entered in the 2018 edition of the Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour, and the level of variety throughout the field is impressive. Leading the field is Class A1 for extreme performance forced induction. It's where you'll find the ongoing battle between the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo and Subaru WRX from Japan against the might of Germany's best, BMW, Audi and Mercedes AMG. Oh, and there's a couple of Fords in the mix. There's the Focus RS of 2016 winners Nathan Morecambe and Chaz Mostert, and the FPV GTF driven by Jeremy Gray and George Miedeke. Class A2 is where you'll find extreme performance naturally aspirated cars. It's predominantly the domain of HSV, featuring a variety of club sports and GTS models. However, their dominance is set to be tested by a very quick Mercedes AMG C63 from Queensland in the hands of Carl Begg and Justin Anthony. Class B1 is for high performance forced induction, and it's the home for earlier generations of Subaru's WRX, the BMW 135i, plus the racing debut of Volkswagen's Golf R, headed up by Orange local Trevor Keane. Class B2 is high performance naturally aspirated, 3 Holden VE Commodores have entered this class, bursting full of talent and bravado, and ready to pounce on a strong outright result should some of the leading guns falter. Class C is for performance cars, the giant killers of Australian production car racing. The Renault Megane dominates the field and will be battling against the might of BMW, Alfa Romeo, Subaru and Volkswagen for class glory on the mountain. The Toyota 86 is once again the car to have in Class D for production cars. They again represent half the 6-car field. It also includes a Toyota Corolla Sportivo, a Honda Integra Type R, and the extremely impressive Kia Proceed GT from Conroy Motorsport. Rounding out this diverse field of cars is Class E for compact production cars. It'll be open warfare in the baby car class between Japan and South Korea, as the might of Toyota, Mazda, Suzuki and Nissan take on Hyundai. Yesterday, qualifying day, was, as always, as remarkable as it always is at Mount Panorama, and we saw the fastest ever lap recorded by a production car at this place. Orange's own Tim Lay, with a 2:22.904, grabbed pole position for the Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour. It was a BMW domination in qualifying, with the M3 in front of the Sharon Racing BMW M4 in second place. Behind them, it was close. Stephen Johnson put the AMG Mercedes third. The superstar and internet sensation Jordan Cox fourth in a Mitsubishi Lancer, just in front of another of the AMG Mercedes in Garth Walden and Craig Baird. But Tim Lay is the fastest ever man around Mount Panorama in a production car, and Becky caught up with him yesterday.
When we went out, I had Beric, who's driving with me on the cans, and he was supposed to stick me out behind the last car, but he stuck me out behind the last car that was on his first hot lap. So, you know, we were stuck out there and had to hurry it along a little bit. But really, we got stuck behind the guy who was on his hot lap across the top. But in the end, it didn't make a difference. The guy was pretty quick over the top. So, you know, we did a great lap, and the car was fantastic. It handled like we thought it would, and you know, it had great power. So it was a good lap.
What about this place, though? We know it and love it. It's the most famous place in Australian motor racing. 6,213 odd metres of the best tarmac around, 23 corners, but one of those great tracks you don't refer to a corner number. They've got iconic names like Hell Corner, Griffin's Bend, The Cutting, the Metal Grate, Reed Park, McPhillamy, the Dip of the S's, and right down towards Conrod Straight. Extraordinary scenes. The grid is building. John Hindhoff has made the run up to commentary box. We'll hear from him in a second, but it takes a lot to put on an event like this. A great sponsor and event director. Becky's got them at the front of the grid.
We sure are. We're here with James O'Brien. What a fantastic event we have here for the 6 Hour today. You must feel so proud.
Yeah, very happy with the turnout. Easter Sunday, daylight savings ends, April Fool's Day. I've been caught out. It's been an interesting morning, but certainly very happy with the field. 62 cars entered. We lost 6 over the course of practice and qualifying, but we've got just a paltry 56 cars on the grid to start the race. We've got 5 different models in the first 6 cars on the grid, so delighted with that. I would also like to thank the volunteers, given their whole Easter weekend to be here, 12-hour plus day, so thank you guys, and look forward to seeing you tonight. And finally, we can't do this without a naming rights sponsor. So Hi-Tec Oils, thank you so much for your support from year one of this event 3 years ago, and happy to be on the journey with you.
George, it is a pleasure to see you again. Hi-Tec Oils have been a fantastic partnership of the Bathurst 6 Hour for 3 years now. Yeah. That must feel fantastic to be a part of such a great event.
Yeah, we're getting there now. It's like really sped into our schedule now for the Bathurst 6 Hour with James, and he's doing a good job, and his people are really good and very professional, and we love doing with him.
Well, here we go, guys. We're on the grid, and I think Mark might have somebody just behind me.
Grant Sharon, we're down here on the front row of the grid. You've qualified well, but overnight they've hit you with a penalty.
Yeah, we got a bit of balance of performance penalty, but that's all right. Got a good view for the start, and let's just keep it clean and see where we're at the end of the race.
Obviously, a year on with development of this car, you're looking good. You should have a lot of those reliability problems ironed out.
Yeah, we hope so. You know, like towards the end of last year, we ended up winning the championship. The team's done a great job in getting the car up there towards the end of the year. We've come here and done some consistent laps and got the car set up for today. So really looking forward to today, and looking really forward to that last half hour, to be there at the last half hour and then cross that finish line.
Now, there is one car that was missing that I noticed as I walked over in the middle of the pack. The 29 car is in the pit lane. This is one of the Mercedes AMGs.
Qualified third, Stephen Johnson with an outstanding lap at very end of qualifying yesterday, 2:26.25. This is one of two AMGs out of the Garth Walden Racing stable. He'll share it with Rob Woods and Marcel Zalua in this race, a strong three-driver combination. Green flag flies at Mount Panorama. The clock starts ticking. We are officially underway. We'll roll around behind the Hi-Tec Oils safety car, and then we will go racing at the end of this lap. We've got 4 onboard cameras across this race. One of them is car 29. Lots of Mercedes AMG influence for you in our onboard cameras, because this is a Mercedes AMG C63 rocket ship, and there's no other way to describe it. It is the fastest car down Conrod Straight this weekend at more than 270 kilometres an hour. And we should point out, as the Dylan Thomas and Tim Slade car has stopped on the grid, this car changed an engine before qualifying yesterday. It was a 0 kilometre engine that went in. Tim Slade ran that in qualifying. They did not qualify particularly well. They were due to start this race 25th. At the moment, it looks like, if at all, they're going to be starting it from the very back of the field.
Yeah, don't forget, this is not a formation lap coming back to the grid. We will, in theory at least, be going green at the end of this lap.
Well, there's some people that know all about pushing cars up pit lane. Des West back in 73. It's fired. We think they're away, so that will be good. Car 68 will be able to get to the back of the grid and get to the start of this race. Here's the grid for the Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour. You've seen the top 10 already. It's BMWs 1 and 2, but it's by no means a sure thing, because there's some firepower behind them. Watch out for the driver behind the wheel of car 7, Jordan Cox. He is an internet sensation for some of the things he's been able to do in his improved production Honda. The first car in A2 is that AMG C63 V8 power. They start from 90. Daniel Gaunt will join the Kavich brothers in their Subaru. Over the page, the FPV GT Falcon of Jeremy Gray and George Medici goes from 11th. The Americans Jorgensen and Strom in their BMW from 12th. The first car in B2 is the SS Commodore of Krinilos, Villag and Howard. A car to watch will be the Power On Racing AMG going from 20th. Rod Salmon and Lee Burgess start just behind Mark Eddy and Tony Alford in the Audi TT. Over the page, some more cars from A1 and B2. Competitive contenders, and the class fights will be something we talk about. And we saw car 68. They were due to start 24th. That's the Dylan Thomas, Tim Slade, Mitsubishi Lancer Revolution. They will now start further through the field. As we go over the page, you'll see some of the Class C cars for the first time. Kevin Stoopman, Williams and Ross, quickest in their Subaru. Impreza on pole there. But that's going to be a close fight in Class C with the Renault Megans. More cars rolling on our starting grid. There's so many. Yuso and Salteri starting in the number 96 car, and I can tell you that Ian Salteri has his birthday today in car number 96. And interestingly enough, those two Class E Nissan Pulsars that qualified first and second in that class were also penalised for their raw speed that they have relative to their opposition. They got the same penalty as the leading BMWs, 120mm minimum ride height adjustment to those cars. So it's set for 56 starters in the Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour, with several cars unfortunately withdrawn after the dramas yesterday. You can see some of the Class E runners rounding out our field, and Gullian Scott in their Lancer starting right from the very back of the field. So here we go, 56 cars, 6 hours in front of us at Mount Panorama. And BMW, which have won this race on 2 occasions, will lead the field to green for the third. Happy Easter, everybody. What a way to do it. And into turn 1 goes the Bruce Linton BMW M3 competition into turn 1. It's Beric Linton behind the wheel. Grant Sherrin starting the Sherrin Rentals M3 alongside him as they power up Mountain Straight.
And a good start by the Ford Focus as well, trying down the inside into the first corner. But how about the power on the number 90, the Boss Motorsport, the Boss Surveillance-sponsored car. This is the 6.3 AMG V8 power up Mountain Straight towards Griffins for the first time. You always talk about brake horsepower and power, but you drive torque, and they've got that in spades.
It's Carl Begg behind the wheel of that car, and he's stormed up the leaderboard and blew past the four-wheel drive turbo cars as if they were standing still. And we mentioned at the top of the show that is the fastest car down Conrod so far this weekend. Out of the cutting, the climb commences, the BMWs drive away. It's Garth Walden in third place, it's Graham Cox behind the wheel of the number 7 Mitsubishi Lancer Evo. His son, the superstar Jordan, will jump into that car later on, as will Michael King, their third driver. Behind the wheel of the number 11 DPO car is Nathan Morecambe, Chaz Mostert to co-drive there. That is a winning combination at this race in 2016.
And a pretty sensible start. You said use your head, Krilsey, as a part of our keys to the race. And getting through the first lap is part of that. No sense making a massive dive down the inside into a corner where everybody is still trying to find their place on the racetrack. Save that for later on. You can never win the race on the first lap, but you can certainly lose it. All of these adages, all of these cliches, because there is more than a modicum of truth in them. The two BMWs, as we expected, sitting a little higher in their off-road spec, perhaps, as they come down Conrod for the first time, through the kink and towards the chase. Nothing between those two cars. The dark blue car with the light blue flashes on the bonnet. Yes, that is dark blue, not black. It is the most unbelievably deep paint. It looks like you can lose half an arm in there. They were polishing it. That's all they were doing on Saturday before qualifying. No, they didn't want to do any mechanical adjustments to the car, so they put about 3 tins of polish on it.
It's a beautiful car. This just its first race meeting. It's never done a stint longer than 40 minutes in any one time, and that was Berwick's big concern after qualifying yesterday. He said, yeah, look, we've got a really fast car, but in a 6-hour production car race, it doesn't really make a huge amount of difference if you can't get to the end of it, which is what they need to do. They've got concerns about brakes and tyre wear in particular. The other story that I think we'll hear over the course of the race is the temperature. We talked about it. It's 25 and a bit degrees at the moment, a top of 30 degrees. Overheating has been a crucial issue throughout practice and qualifying on Friday and Saturday.
Actually felt a bit warmer than that on the grid, Krilsey, because there's barely a breath of wind there. A1 battle side by side coming up to Griffin's Corner, Hancock Griffin's Corner, as they climb up towards the cutting. And the Hancock tyres, by the way, everybody on the same spec of tyres, but a reminder, if you're joining us for the first time this weekend, they are grooved tyres, so they're not expecting rain here, although if there was, they wouldn't need to change tyres because they're actually quite durable. And with the grooves, the sipes, as tyre engineer calls them in the rubber themselves, they would be enough to clear at least moderate water here, but they are effectively ultra high performance tyre.
Well, they're the same Hancock Ventus tyre you go and buy from your local tyre dealer for track days, the R-Spec track tyres with light grooving, as you mentioned. Very durable tyre. Each team has 24 of them to work with over the course of the weekend, but there's no old tyres to use. They don't come from an existing tyre bank.
24 tyres.
They're all brand new. 24 tyres, 6 sets.
Wow.
Yep, to use over the course of the weekend. And the story we'll hear, as much as brakes and temperature, will be working side tyres, the right-hand side tyres, especially in the big, heavy V8 or turbocharged BMW powered cars like we're seeing at the lead of this race. They put all their energy into that right front tyre and they cop an absolute hiding. So that'll be a story we need to watch over the course of this race. Berwick Linton and Grant Sherrin pulling away out in front. What about this race though? 6 hours, record distance is 125 laps, which was set in our first race in 2016, 776.5 kilometres. The lap record, 2 minute 25.88. It was set by Luke Searle on the third to last lap of last year's race in an unbelievable battle with Chaz Mostert in a battle to the line. What do we expect? Well, last year, of the 64 starters, 50 finished.
Yeah. Remarkable
finishing rate and durability rate for a production car race. 50 started the first race in 2016 and 33 finished that year. So reliability will play a role, as will the usual Bathurst attrition, but perhaps not so much as you might think for a race like this.
Looked like Grant Sherrin was having a little think down towards the final corner at Murray's on the first lap, and I've got a suspicion that they got on the phone to him and said, are you for real? Back off a little bit. There's no need to be running right up the tailpipes of that BMW ahead of him. And there's two reasons for that. One, because it's very tiring. It takes an awful lot of concentration to follow any car closely. And when it's a race car on the mountain, times that by about 10. Secondly, if you're sitting right behind someone, Krilsey, and the point that you made earlier is well made, you're not getting a free flow of air into the car. and therefore any overheating issues you might have, you're just exacerbating. So to stay back, be able to pull to one side or the other down Conrod maybe, and just give yourself a little bit of breathing space, literally as well as metaphorically. I don't think that's a bad shout at this stage.
Yeah, especially early in the race as the field settles down and finds their groove around Mount Panorama. Completely agree with you. Just get your own bit of racetrack, settle down.
Right.
You don't need to race for the lead now. Just keep Berwick Linton within shouting distance for when you start doing pit stops. Talking about stops, we said 4 compulsory pit stops for the leading cars. A lot of them aren't going to be able to do it on 4 stops.
No.
That's the key thing here. The BMWs expect at least 5 stops, possibly more depending on how the safety cars roll today.
Just caught a glimpse there of the number 14 in 4th position. That is the James Vernon driven A1 class Mitsubishi. That's been a good start for James. He's worked quietly but efficiently up from 7th place on the grid to 4th.
Change of the lead down the inside. It seemed inevitable. The Sharon Rentals BMW now gets past and grabs the lead. So there's your first lead change for the motor race. And a nice pass, well judged. He looked like he was going to do that at some point. Braking performance on the Sharon car looked particularly strong up the hill and the run into the left-hander.
We'll come back to that. One of the McGann RSs, it's the 13 that's in the wall. And
that's their Colin Osborne Hadrian Morale car, and it's Colin behind the wheel. Former president of the Confederation of Australian Motorsport, quite some time ago, it must be said. And we're hearing safety car will be called. Yep, safety car is confirmed for the first time today, and that is for the number 13 Renault McGann RS265, stuck in the wall at the elbow at the top of Conrod Straight, unable to drag itself out. And I'd suggest the right front corner there doesn't look like factory optimal toe in / out for a Renault McGann. So this is a smart strategy play by the Sydney-based CGR Performance team, who'll drag Tim Slade out. He's now got 3 hours left in his driving time, by the way, for the end of the race. And Dylan Thomas will now jump in.
Leaders are on the lane now. So the Sharon's car gets in first. Grant Sharon comes to a halt, and he, as the leader, in the pit lane.
And red flag, so the race will be suspended. So a pause here, and we understand that it's quite a significant delay up in the repair that's going on with the tyre bundle up at Forest Elbow on the run down into Conrod Straight. So red flag, so the cars are under the control of the safety car. The field will roll behind them and will pull to a halt on the start-finish straight. Here's the top 10 overall. John, it's Garth Walden who assumes the lead in the Mercedes-Benz.
Carl Begg is in second place and leads A2 on the Ridges overall leaderboard. We've got the B1 leader as well in there, Scott Gore, the BMW, in 7th position. Second of the A2 cars down in 10th position.
This is the class fight, and getting a class trophy just as important as that outright result. So Walden, Begg in A1 and A2, the extreme performance class. High performance is class B, forced induction B1, normally aspirated B2. Michael Auld, defending champion, the number 24 Holden Commodore. They've won that race the last 2 years. Robin Lacey leads the way in the Volkswagen Scirocco R. David Baker on top in Class D in the Honda Integra, which qualified on pole. And Browner Wilson doing a terrific job in the Nissan Pulsar N15, leading the compact class in Class E. Laps into the race, and Garth Walden, veteran driver, will lead the field back to green with a pretty comfortable margin. Couple of cars between first and second. The Alpha does the right thing, holds its racing line. The Class A cars go through. The Begg Anthony car sweeps past. So too does the Cox number 7 Mitsubishi Lancer. So we're back to green flag racing conditions after a lengthy race suspension on the mountain. This is the view Stephen Johnson has. He's charged his way, having been in pit lane for the start of this race, up to 9th place. And now right up behind the Rod Salmon Lee Burgess number 6 car.
Well, has not yet done a compulsory pit stop. So he stayed out when the original yellow flag came out. So that's how he's gained some of those places. So effectively, he's another 2 minutes and 20 seconds down the road from anyone who's stopped. Into the pit lane from 4th position, the number 4, the property investment store BMW M Coupe, to make their first compulsory pit stop. I reckon the first people who have made compulsory pit stops is the 23 car, down in 18th position. Does that work with you?
Yep, it does. So with Beric Linton and Tim Lay just in 18th position, the Sharon's just behind them. So from our timing monitor, they've got out in front. We'll confirm that, of course, when we see it. There's the Sharon car. So they are behind. So that's been another change. I don't mind getting another stop out of the way there, and I certainly don't mind what the drivers and the team at Garthwaten Racing have done with the 29, because they were buried in the field.
Correct.
You've got to get track position. You need to get yourself back in contention.
Roll the dice.
Exactly
keys
right.
Keys to the race. One of Crailsy's keys to the race. Roll the dice. And the 1% as well. And those decisions that you make to make the best of those situations, well, they are what win races.
This is the battle for second place, and Carl Begg behind the wheel of that AMG, floating over the first hump on Conrod Straight and just leaving the Evo Lancer, which in its own right's doing 255 kilometres an hour, just in its dust and its AMG exhaust pipe.
Doesn't stop quite as well as the Lancer though, does it? I think they should have taken the wooden dashboard, the back seats, the aircon, the TV and everything else. No, they have, of course they've done that. But that is an insanely quick car in a straight line. That is already my favourite car, the 90. That's brilliant stuff. A couple of AMG A45s battling away for position. 29 in 9th position. The grey and blue car comes across the line now. And right in behind that, is that the 6 car in behind that? The Aquilema Racing car? Yes, it is.
Rod Salmon, Lee Burgess.
Yeah.
So with the Sewell and Andrew Fisher cars stopping, these cars are now just gaining a few more positions, up to 7th place from the back of the field. Mark Walker might be able to tell us a little bit more about what's going on down in the lane.
Yeah, we've got some problems here for the Edward Stewart Bailey BMW. They've got a misfire in the 6-cylinder. They thought it might have just been a coil, but it's something a little more terminal than that. They've cycled around the circuit. The problem only got worse. The crew under the bonnet there now having a look at the spark plugs. So great drama here for this BMW. The BMW is, of course, so reliable, winner of the last 2 races here at Mount Panorama.
And is that a slow-moving Mercedes-Benz that's just been
small,
gobbled up? That's
exactly
a change
what
of
I
position.
noticed.
So around goes the Cox Mitsubishi, the number 5 car goes through, Stephen Johnson goes through. This is a big moment. The car that was running second outright in this race is now dropping down the order.
Yeah, and Anthony Sewell in one of the M-Class BMWs went through as well, and that was my first clue that something wasn't quite right with the big 6.3 V8 engined AMG 4-door, and that car is not up to speed, so dropping down through the field now.
It's been a great drive through the grid for Stephen Johnson. We're on board with him now.
I reckon he's at 5th he's in now. He's 4th going to be now, isn't he, when he gets to the end of this lap?
Paddle shift gearbox. In the A45, it's still the road going gearbox, so paddles behind the factory steering wheel. They do pull the airbags out.
I noticed that.
Safety purposes, and usually just leave the steering wheel boss off as well. Save a few precious grams, but Stephen's driven very well.
All-wheel drive has been a staple of Australian improved production down through the years. That AMG 45 has the centre diff is a Haldex diff, which is a clever way of doing your centre diff. And again, think back to the Audi Quattros, that's the sort of thing. Oh, a little bit wide from the Mitzi as the number 7 car, and Graham Cox goes a wee bit wide. It hasn't cost him too much. He punches out the corner well, because the 2 German cars behind him are fighting, and here comes Johnson down the inside. Stephen Johnson goes through and takes that position. The number 5 A1 class BMW just going back 1 there. Graham holds on for another lap, and here comes the 23. Beric Linton is right in there as well, and this is effectively, remember, the leader of the race, because he's made his first compulsory pit stops and the cars ahead haven't. And there he goes.
It's just too easy.
That's just extraordinary. But we'll go further up the pit lane to Becky Lamb, who's with Craig Baird.
Thanks, guys. I'm with Craig Baird. Craig, you guys are in the lead at the moment, and we just heard it's a pretty hefty 17 seconds.
Yeah, I think the BMWs will chew it up pretty quick, but the safety car kind of helped us, and then the red flag, I'm not sure really what it was for, but it sort of helps us at the end of the race because we were probably a bit short on fuel heading home, so it's opened up a bit of a strategy for us, and we're out of sync a little bit because we didn't take the safety car for fuel. So we've got another 7 or 8 laps, and then I'll go and have a run around for an hour or two.
I think the red flags helped them because they were right on the cusp of having to stop 5 times. They would have needed a lot of luck to do it on 4. The AMG.
Yeah.
The BMs were always going to stop on 5. What the red flag did was just free up as the 77 Nissan stopped on the exit of Forest Elba on the run down Conrod. To finish my point, the AMGs now should be able to do this race thanks to that red flag on 4 pit stops. So I think it levels the playing field.
But do the BMW still have to do 5?
No, well, they've already done 1. I think they still have to do at least 4.
Yes.
Down the inside, Sharon, this for second place. And for the second time, it's a carbon copy. At the chase, he moves past Beric Linton.
Yes, but they have managed to... I still think they're net in a slight advantage because they've got one of their 220s out of the way under the safety car.
Well, I agree with that. Absolutely.
So if they have to do a 5th, it's only as long as they have to stand still.
Correct.
So it's a splash of fuel.
And they're still comfortably the fastest cars, which in the
are they
end
ever?
what win you the motor race. And that's just another look at that move. That could have been the pass we saw in the first half hour of the race. It was exactly the same move. So, wow, into the gravel trap, definite safety car. The HSV Monaro, nicely said as an Australian there. Hi-Tec Oil sponsorship has ended up in the gravel trap.
I work hard with what you tell me, Krillsy. I try to learn. Well, that's why everybody had dived into the pit lane, because of those 2 cars, and that's very smart indeed. Now, if you're the 45, surely you come in now. Whatever, they've done 21 laps. Whatever your pit strategy is, it's the right front that's now at a jaunty angle on that Nissan.
They'll be on the end of their fuel range now anyway.
Correct.
So, and yes,
Into
does
the pit lane.
dive in, and that's smart from Garth Walden Racing.
Now, if you're the 27 and the 23 BMWs, do you come in as well? I say yes, you do.
Yeah, I would.
I'd burn another 220.
I would, but there's a reason I'm a commentator and not a team manager or a race strategist. So, in the end, what do I know? But we'll see. I would. You'd pit now, surely, and just tick another one off.
Yeah.
And then you stop for fuel at the end of the race on your own terms and at your own time.
Correct.
More importantly.
And every time you get one away in a safety car period, that is less time that you lose when you only have to stop when you can do a pit stop at speed. I'm not a suspension or an alignment expert, but that right front on the Nissan Pulsar wasn't quite right. Leader in the lane under full course yellow.
And driver change underway. Garth Walden, former world time attack champion, sports car racing ace, GT racing ace, Sydney-based proprietor of Garth Walden Racing jumps out, and 5-time Porsche Carrera Cup Australia champion Craig Baird jumps in, one of the great exports from New Zealand motor racing. Relaxed pit stop. They've got 2 minutes 20. Car 6 is in the lane as well. Lee Burgess behind the wheel of that. Door opens, he's jumping out, belts off, and Rod Salmon, the double 12-hour winner, will jump in to the Power On racing car.
There are regulations about how many people can be over the line in the pit lane, what equipment you can have out there, but there's no need to hurry because you're going to get it filled and you are going to get the wheels changed in the 220, and you will still be sitting there for a few seconds. And that is the beauty of and I completely agree with it in this form of racing. I think it's a smart thing to do.
With more from the lane, here's Becky Land.
Thanks, Kralsey. Garth Walden, an epic race out there so far. An hour and a half in, you're still P1. You did a pretty good job.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's pretty hot out there. We're just trying to manage, obviously, tyre temperatures with these conditions, and also engine and gearbox and diff. So, we could push on after the safety car for a few laps, but then temperatures start to rise. So you're really trying to short shift and just get the engine temp down. Basically, it's going to be the rate. I think that's going to be the battle all afternoon, just to try and monitor engine and gearbox temps and drive to the tyre.
So we're back underway, and it's Steve Owen, the veteran, who leads the field up Mountain Straight. At least in terms of the leaderboard, there's a few lapped cars he needs to work his way through. And with those leading BMWs pitting, it's shuffled the order around, and we'll see some of those Mercedes AMGs back towards the front. and Craig Baird coming across the timing line in third place at the moment. So this is an interesting little phase of the race with a lot of people out of track position from perhaps where they should be.
I think that's one of the times that you have to go back, Krillsy, to your keys to the race and remember that there are still 4 hours and 18 minutes to go. Yes, it's tempting, particularly in the bigger, faster cars, to carve through at every possible opportunity, but you've got to remember here that the bulk of the race is still in front of you. Steve Owen from Stephen Thompson by about 3 seconds, the 92 car in second place, the Allworth Homes Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 10, last of the Lancers of course, and they're carving their way through traffic at the moment because they were nowhere near the front of the field when we came back to the line.
So that's the leading car there, middle of screen, Hi-Tec Oil sponsored Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 9, driven by Steve Owen. He's about to put a lap down on the Begg and Anthony AMG that was so strong early, but they've been caught out through all this sequence.
It's still not well, that car.
No, but more so they've been caught out by these safety cars and shuffled down the field and out of track position, so that's really frustrating for them. This is Rod Salmon. He's behind the wheel of car 6, which is another of the Mercs in the race, and he's got traffic. He's got the big FPV GTF Falcon in front, and it's all well and good, Rod, showing your nose on the run out of Forest Elbow, but I think that Falcon may well be in front by the time they get down the other end.
Get him behind him, get him behind him, get the draft, man, get the draft.
There's the supercharged Ford V8 power just edging away from the Turbo 4 in the AMG, and now significantly pulling away when they get to the top end. It's about 15 k's an hour difference in straight line speed between those two cars we saw in qualifying yesterday.
And the issue there was that the BMW 1 Series, he wasn't able to get through it because that car's actually quite speedy in a straight line as well, but barely any aero on the little BMW. Now into Murray's corner, the final corner, comes from a long way back, and Rod does hit a bit of the curb but gets through, and the Evo gets through the traffic.
Oh, it's busy.
Busy?
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's fantastic is what this is.
What we went to talk about at the start was these are the moments where you can afford just to lift off if you need to, because you're an hour and 44 into the race. There's still over 4 hours on the clock. So there's dramas for car 56. Mark Eddy's jumped out of the beautiful 5-cylinder Audi TT. Mark Walker has more.
Yeah, unfortunately, big dramas down here for the Audi. They're not quite sure. It lost power with Mark Eddy behind the wheel on that in-lap, and the crew looking around the engine bay with torches, trying to find anything that's come amiss. But a bit of a mystery drama down here has put them into the garage.
Time to take a look at how things are at the top of the standings with our Ridges overall leaderboard. Steve Owen in the Lancer leads by now just over 9 seconds. He's got a bit of a wiggle on the last couple of laps and pulled out 3 seconds on Craig Baird in the AMG A45 in second. And 3 different manufacturers in the top 3 sees that insanely quick M4 BMW with Ian Sherrin behind the wheel in third position. Our Newton Power class leaderboards shows that car in the lead of Class B2. Steve Owen, of course, leading A1. Chris Lillis in the other version of the Holden, the bigger engine car with the 6.3, the HSV version of that car. That's the 64 leading A2. B1 BMW M-Power for the 135i, the 48 car, Patrick Galang at the wheel. Kevin Stoopman has the Subaru Impreza leading Class C. Brian Callaghan in Class D for that Integra. He's been there and off pole position with a stonking lap on Saturday. Mark Griffiths has the Toyota Echo at the head of the compact car class.
One fast car stopped on the run up to the cutting. That's the CXC Global CGR Performance Evo 10. Tim Slade and Dylan Thomas. It's been a litany of dramas for them. They're 32nd out right at the moment, and that car is stopped and parked on the run up to the cutting.
Dylan Thomas with apparently no fire in the 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. He's pulled over to driver's left. Awful thing to happen, and a bad place to do it with literally no runoff either side.
Yeah, exactly, and it's a pretty hard spot to be parked there, because if there are cars side by side and you've got a car parked there on the left briefed. It does make it tricky, but
Tricky?
That's probably one way of putting it. But we were well briefed in the driver's briefing yesterday about these things, happening, and they said we want to try and avoid the safety cars wherever they can. I think that's great because, being production cars, we are going to have these issues with them. And, I think everyone's aware of, there's fast and slow cars out there, and I think everyone's pretty conscious of giving everyone space. So if they see the double yellow flags or a yellow flag, they definitely know that there is a car with an issue.
Yeah, if it was going to break on the run to the cutting, that's the right side of that kink to do it, isn't it? Because it's completely blind on the other side. It's an extraordinary bit of road, and how that funnels down and narrows with the big cliff face on the left-hand side as you're running up into the cutting.
Exactly, and to be honest, I don't think the video does it justice. What we see here today on the TV camera, you actually walk the track for yourself, and by the time you get to turn 3, you're absolutely stuffed. You want to go back home. It's so
stuffed before I get to the end of pit lane.
Yeah.
But you're a fit race car.
But you can't comprehend how steep that area is and how narrow it is, and the blind approach as well.
And with a safety car, sorry John, coming out, the leader pits critically.
Perfect
Steve Owen
timing.
dives into pit lane.
So it does look as though it's a driveline issue or a complete engine failure, because the Mitzi just stopped. I reckon that's snagging a gear and a driveline problem by the look of where that happened.
Nathan Morecambe, it looked hot work out there, and certainly a tyre trouble, it doesn't make it any easier.
Oh, definitely hot out there. We don't have any of our dry ice boxes like the supercars, but it's hot out there. And you got to have the windows up just so you can get down and up these long straights. And we're down on horsepower compared to these two BMWs that are just running away from us. But we also have just down on a little bit of boost. But the biggest issue we've got now is we're actually have tyre trauma. It's just delaminating. Not sure why. It's never done it to us in the last 2 years. So we've got to try and get our head around it.
So we see the Cedars crew under work, looking after the Jeremy Gray, George Medicki FPV Falcon. You'll be grinning at this. I know you're a Blue Oval fan, Todd Hazelwood, so you'll like this car.
Yeah, it's a cool favourite of mine, that one, and it goes well in a straight line too. It's certainly no slouch, and I think it's quite an underdog.
It's a good package. I had a chat with George about it coming into the event, and he said we've actually just wound the car back. We've detuned it for race spec to build some reliability into it, with the knowledge that we can then turn it back up for the final hour if we get to that point. Back to Becky in the lane.
Thanks, Kralsey. I'm here with Jeremy Gray. Jeremy, it's really hot out there and we know that, but how is the car handling under the heat conditions?
The car lateral group's fine. We're just managing engine temp at this stage. 120, I think it goes into limp mode, so it went into limp mode on me twice. So you've really got to manage the traffic in front of you and maintain a good gap. So we managed to do it so far, and hopefully the day gets a bit cooler, then we can really put a push on. So main aim is just to circulate, try and stay on the lead lap at this stage.
We're back to green. Beardo leads the field back to the green flag, and we're racing once again on the mountain.
Lots of lap cars in between those top cars that you just mentioned there, Krillsy, and this is where you need a little bit of patience. Oh, what am I saying? What am I saying? 3 wide, and there goes the red line, the 69 Holden Commodore that Krillsy loves so much because he's got one as a street car. That's fine, that's what production racing's all about. You follow the car that you drive, or that you know your uncle, your dad, your cousin, whatever drives, and that is why people love this type of racing so much. Back underway then with just under 3 hours and 40 minutes still to go. Restarts, of course, Todd. It is the opportunity to take some positions when the field's together, but it's that we've been talking about the risk versus reward situation of picking the right time to make it overtake.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. Risk versus reward around here is massive. Obviously, being such fast-flowing corners, when it's so totally congested across the top, it's hard to go too wide through there. And then at instances, there's cars trying to go 3 wide, so that makes it even harder. And it's absolutely chaos and restarts. As I said, there's cars out of sync. There's cars that are being lapped. There's lots of fast and slow cars. You can see here, cars 2x2 going through the grate there. It is, it's quite tricky. And fortunately, as long as all the drivers are aware, looking in their mirrors and leaving the right amount of room. But at the same time, you don't want to get offline too much, because that's when you get in the marbles and catch yourself out. So it's one of those things you really have to tightly manage.
And it was one of our keys to the race at the start of the show today that you can afford to probably give up at this point. If you wait 2 corners to pass a lapped car, that's okay at this stage in the race, because you're better off doing that. As we have a look at Tim Lay, well, this is my point, that could have ended up badly for Tim Lay. Do you just lift off there instead at this point in the race and maybe just wait a little bit and be a little bit cautious?
I think this is interesting here. So you see Craig is trying to defend here because he knows that Ian's got the power in a straight line. But what I've been watching is Sector 2 for Craig is much more impressive. So he'll be trying to do whatever he can now to make sure he can keep that BMW behind him right here, which is going to be interesting. This is for the lead, remember. So I reckon Craig will fire it back up the inside now, and then he'll have priority going over the hill. So what a great battle we have on our hands.
The loss of grip from the rear end of the BMW. The Hancock's crying enough as the right foot went down on the pedal, and Ian just trying to get the pull up the hill.
Have a go at this guy calling the race.
Yeah.
We'll just take the afternoon off.
Yeah, shall we?
That's great. Race car driver, commentator.
I think, well, only if he's going to give us a go in his supercar.
I think so.
I'm not driving today, so I've got to do something worthwhile, so why not? But
that was smart driving though, wasn't it, by Craig, because he knew the moment he came out of Hell Corner, he was straight across, stayed there rather than just drifting across to the left-hand side as you went up Mountain Straight.
And now we've got a drama. This is car number 18. It stopped on the run up to the hill towards Reed Park.
Safety car is out immediately here. I think that car's been in the wall, Crailsey. Jamie Hodgson behind the wheel of the big V8. This is the A2, one of the normally aspirated extreme performance car. It was third in its class. Oh. Right, okay, sorry, let's go back to what's going on up the mountain. I'm not an expert, but I think that might have been an engine failure, Krills.
I think that's reasonably serious and a reasonably well-judged explanation.
It's certainly a sight you do not want to see. Smoke coming out the back tailpipes. That's always a good indication that you won't be racing for this afternoon.
No, so much white smoke, I thought we'd elected a new pope for a moment there. Oh, and a bit of drama in the pit lane down at the Race for a Cure Mitsubishi Lancer, as the dry brake didn't quite be as dry as it should have been there.
It's full.
And we've also had somebody lose a wheel and tyre combo. Right rear deciding to make its bid for freedom right at the top of the mountain. And you've heard me say this before, Crailsey, but I think it bears repeating. Never a good day when different parts of your car are doing different lap times. Here's the pit stop scramble. Leaders are in. Top 4 have headed to the pit lane already.
I think that car was the young guns, Jack Winter and Zach Raddax in their ex-Dylan Thomas Evo, with a combined age, those two are 32 years of age, 16 apiece. So this was the car that was in third place. It now stops. Power On Racing will go to work. All of the leaders are in the lane. First 4 cars are in the pits. Tyres going on the A45 AMG. Craig Baird will stay behind the wheel. He'd only been in that car for just over 50 minutes.
And a good spot by Crailsey. It was the 65 car, right rear wheel, with the 2 16-year-olds in the car.
Young Zach behind the wheel, unfortunately, so...
That's not his fault.
No.
You can honestly say that.
Right rear has departed. There's Chaz Mostert watching on, 2014 Bathurst champion of this race in 2016, driving with this team and with his co-driver this weekend driving the BMW at the time.
Car controller running the stopwatch because he knows exactly how long the car's got to be stationary to make the transit out to the pit exit line. Let's find out from Mark what's going down in the pit lane.
Speaking of bids going wrong, in motorsport you'll always need some spare parts, especially for an endurance race here at Bathurst. So why bring spare parts when you can just bring a spare car that you can cannibalise throughout the course of the weekend? The local guys here, the Schumacher Motorsport team, they've got their Subaru WRX out on the racetrack. They've also got a spare that they're pinching bits and pieces off over the weekend. Over the course of many years here at Bathurst, Monday morning, a lot of production cars have been limped back into dealerships around town to fit various parts to take those engine warning lights off the dashboard.
So that little Suzuki will need to wind itself up as hard as it can to just get to the line before it gets mugged by all these four-wheel drive turbos that are lining up behind it. Now it can be passed. Now we've got the green flag and we're back to racing. And the field spreads as they run down towards turn 1. The BMW car number 4 looking down the inside. They're a long way down the order. It's Andrew Fisher behind the wheel, just unlapping himself once from what will become the outright race leader. Daniel Studdard now assumes the race lead in the Mitsubishi Lancer. Gee, that was busy. You'd get some grey hairs if you're in the middle of the pack, I'd reckon.
And we did get 4 across the Hi-Tec Oils start-finish line. Oh, a bit naughty, cutting across. That was a late dive to react to the 83 car, and that's Daniel Stuttard, the leader, and he is trying to put that lap back on Andrew Fisher, who is desperately trying to defend. He is only 1 lap off the lead, in fairness.
Oh man, there's a huge freight train of cars just crossing the start-finish line now, and it includes a bunch of our key contenders. So there's been a break in the safety car chain, and the safety car had only got about 15 cars, and a lot of them were all a lap down. So there's 40 seconds behind Kane Coleman in car number 25, who's shown as being 4th, and Craig Baird, who's in P5. This is a massive free kick for these 5 cars that are shown now at the top of Mount Panorama. Something's gone wrong unsighted by us and unsighted by everybody else.
Well, either that, Crailsey, or it was just somebody coming out of the pits who didn't get onto the back of the safety car quick enough and held people behind them. It's a long, long field here. It takes a good minute for everybody to get through. I'll tell you who's in a good spot here, and that is the 14 car in second, because they have done 3 of their 4 compulsory stops, and they are only a couple of seconds behind Daniel Stuttard. It's Paul Loicano behind the wheel of that 14 car at the moment, and they're only 2 seconds behind the leader. More dramas. Every time we look at the circuit, there's something going on, and this is more overheating issues for the number 40 Commodore Shop Cardiff, and you'll not be surprised to know that that's a VE red line. He stopped right at the apex of the chase, the left-hander. He got onto the grass early. That would suggest to me that that's an engine problem. Yes, it is. It went just at the rise, and again, this is temperature. I'm sure this is temperature related, Crailsey, and that big 6-litre V8 has cried enough. I'm not sure whether he can chug that car in the pit lane, and he can't, and we've gone to our 6th full course caution, with still half of the race and 7 minutes to go. 3 hours and 7 minutes to go. We're up to 6 safety car interventions, and Daniel Stuttard, who had pulled out 5.5 seconds at the front of the field in the 83 Mitsubishi Lancer, will now have to make the decision of whether they come back into the pit lane.
And Rob Wood's already working on the belts, rating on a driver change here. Paul Iacono in the 14 Evo, Kane Coleman in car number 25. That's the BMW M135. They're also in. So 2nd, 3rd and 4th all dive into pit lane and go to work. Drink bottle out and new one in. Important to stay hydrated in these very warm conditions. Bearing in mind, 30 degrees ambient, it'll be closer to 50 degrees C inside these cars.
Craig Baird's gone through, so they've decided, even at just over an hour, they're going to stay out. Ian Sherrin goes through in the 27 BMW.
Well, they needed to stay out because, remember, they got caught out under that last restart by being 45 seconds behind the pack when the field was split.
Right, half of the race is gone. That means we need to take another hourly update. So let's have a look at how they stand on the Ridges top 10 overall. Daniel Stuttard for Mitsubishi Lancer team number 83 is ahead of Craig Baird, behind our 6th safety car intervention of the weekend, the Mercedes-Benz in 2nd. Then the BMW M4 F82, the 27 of Ian Sherrin, charging back through the field, but burning tyres and maybe using brakes as well. Then it's Dan Gunn, Timmy Lay, George Matecki, Michael Anderson, Mike King. They're all A1 cars. And then in the top 10, 2 of our class leaders, which we'll look at in more detail on our class leaderboard. B2 and A2, though, inside the top 10 at 9th and 10th position. So Daniel Stuttard, of course, leads A1. Chris Lillis still behind the wheel of the leading A2 car with the Holden HSV GTS. Then Bradley Carr for Subaru in the B1 category. Brad Howard for Holden in the red line. That's the 6-litre car in B2. Kevin Stootman still behind the wheel of that number 12 Subaru leading Class C. D, Josh Heath in the Toyota GT86, not long since been in the lead of that. And it's the Mazda 3 at the top of the compact Class E runners in that number 2 car. field now under the control of Daniel Studdard in the Mitsubishi, and he's made his bid for freedom early as he came under the bridge in front of the Ridges Hotel and heads up the Hi-Tec Oils start-finish straight to the green flag again. He's got a good jump on the field here, and that was a decent run. The number 4 behind him is not in a battle for the lead. Andrew Fisher is still trying to get back on the lead lap as he was the last time, and he managed to get back on the lead lap for a moment and then had to drop back again because the cars behind were just too quick. But what Andrew Fisher's trying to do now is get ahead of that 83 car and then hope for another safety car so he'll get the wave by.
So it's Mitsubishi leading. Craig Baird there, centre of screen, tipping into Griffin's Bend is second, and Ian Sherrin is third, but just stuck his nose up the inside of the big HSV there at turn 2. Tried to get by. That's another one of those 1%ers we're talking about. You can lift off getting past a lap car. You're better off losing 5 seconds now than losing the front of your race car. So Ian had a big dive up there. The HSV didn't see him coming, and he had to back out of it. Cost him a little bit of time, but saved the race car.
Yeah, I think that was a smart move by Ian Sherrin. The top 4 separated by 5.5 seconds because Daniel Gaunt has been installed in the driver's seat rather of the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 10. Actually, he's been in that car for an hour now, and that's just starting to make its play towards the front of the field. Still has one of its compulsory pit stops to go. I reckon the first car that has done all of its pit stops in terms of running in the line is the Mitsubishi Lancer of Peter Lown, the number 14 car, down in 13th position. They've been down pit lane 5 times. One of those was for the red flag, if you're following along on the timing and scoring here at the track or at home.
Yeah, and you could be right, and I'd suggest they'll save Jimmy Vernon up, the young gun, to jump in that car for the final stint of the race to go hard to the flag. Here's the battle for the race lead. Danny Studdard under pressure from Craig Baird. Beardo's going to look down the inside in the chase. Studdard's going to have to deal with the oil dry and the run down there, and as such he moves across, and Craig Baird was gentlemanly there and just gave him that corner because he knows he's got this one. The Merc down the inside, and that is a change for the race lead in the Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour. Craig Baird returns to the point for Garth Walden Racing in the AMG.
Underneath the Hi-Tec Oils walk-over bridge that links the hotel with the paddock area, and the paddock was pretty busy earlier on. People have repaired to their favourite spot for watching, but there was a lot of autograph hunters, a lot of merchandise being bought. As down the inside into Hell Corner, the 27 BMW, Ian Sherrin having a little look there. Again, it's the 4 car that was his target. That's Andrew Fisher in the BMW. That is an A1 class car. Yep. Doesn't have the outright speed of some of the leaders. They're still just off the lead lap.
It's the second time in a couple of restarts that they've been frustrated by being almost on the lead lap and then having all these pro cars blaze past them on a restart and put them another lap down, which is probably very, very frustrating for them, no doubt. Andrew Fisher, a very experienced driver though.
A couple of places further back, Brett Howard, who's leading B2 category with the red line Commodore. Little fist pump from Crailsey alongside me. He's just done a 2:34.6.
They're 6 outright though.
Yeah,
it's an awesome performance by them as this battle for the lead wages on, and Beto just now having to drive a little bit defensively in the AMG to cover off the ever-looming bright red BMW M4.
And he needs to stay right here. He'll drift to the middle of the road and then just stay to the right. And here comes Sherrin. We've seen this before. And this time, Sherrin gets alongside much earlier on the mountain straight and breezes by. In fairness, I don't think it was the best exit that Beardo's ever done from the first corner. But Sherrin has decided to unleash the... Oh, hang on a minute. There's damage on the right front of that 27 car. There is a little bit of a rub on that car. I think I saw the... right front corner of the bonnet just moving there, going up Mountain Straight.
They'll throw some tape at it at the next pit stop. That would have been on a restart when that field condensed and everyone checked up before the field goes away. The 45 hasn't been immune from that either. They've got some race tape on the left front corner there. So Ian Sherrin out in front. Suspect we'll see a reasonably brisk lap time from this car this time around as it blazes away. An update on car 45 from the man who owns it, Garth Walden's with Mark Walker.
Garth Walden, things are tracking along pretty well this afternoon with Beto out there.
Yeah, we're all trucking along quite good. Craig's done a double stint in the middle of the day. I'll jump into the next one. So far, so good. We're just trucking along. It's going to be, I think, a race to the flag at the end. But those BMWs that are behind, they've just got so much grunt up and down the hill, so it'll be hard to fight them at the end if we have to. But you never know. Still got a long way to go.
Car number 23, Tim Lay behind the wheel, 7th position. It has stopped on the run up to the cutting. This is what they were worried about. They were busy playing it down all night last night. We might have the fastest car. We do not know what it's like over a full race distance. And it turns out they were right. They didn't know. And it has stopped on lap 60 with 2.5 hours to go in this race. It's Tim Lay behind the wheel. Speaking of local drivers, he's from Orange, little more than 40 minutes up the road from Bathurst, further across to the west.
Still green flag at the moment. The car's got power. He's trying to get it going forward. Whilst we were watching that, there was a significant change in Class D. Matt Windsor got past Josh Heath. We were watching him a little bit earlier on, and that battle has gone the way of the Integra. So the Integra's back on. Great race officiating again. That is quality stuff. So many race directors would have just hit the big button for the full course yellow. That's marvellous, marvellous stuff. And we stay green, and the 23 car has fired maybe the three-fingered salute, the Control-Alt-Delete inside that BMW. Buttons will have been pressed. Chatting would have been a difficult place for them to get in touch with him there as well. Probably the worst place to stop in terms of communications.
So now he's got about a minute and a half to decide whether they pit to see if it's a serious drama or whether whatever it is has cleansed itself. We've seen some drama unfold, and perhaps with more information on that is Mark Walker, who's got news on the Berwick Linton BMW.
Yeah, no movement down here. They're talking to the driver. You obviously hit Control-Alt-Delete, got it going again. So they were unmoved from their seats, so not concerned about it there. Next door, Jordan Cox, finally he's gotten suited up. My theory is that he will be bolted into that car and he will run a very long stint to the finish.
Yeah, that I think was our theory as well, Crazy, wasn't it?
That's good news. That's really good news. That's exciting.
Easy Tiger.
That's great. That's very cool. They're running 12th place. Done a terrific job. Michael King and Graham Cox in that car to get that car into, or keep that car in contention.
Whilst we're talking about the categories, let's go down to the B1 class, and Bex has our class leader.
Oh, thanks, guys. I love the introductions. I'm here with Lindsay Kearns. Lindsay, you guys are currently leading the B1 category for this event today. It's pretty cool to be number one moment on the mountain.
It hasn't been easy. There's some kids in a 135 that's really quite quick, and just through the guys being good with the pit stop, they've put us in front, and so we're just watching our tail and see if they're going to creep up. But at the moment, we're holding them pretty steady.
As we see Simon Hodges in car number 25 limping back with smoke pouring from the right front of the BMW M135.
That was 12th place in A1 and solidly inside the top 20. Now, is he going to be able to get that car home?
It's a tyre off the rim, so he's had a delamination on the right front, and it's the right front that everybody's talking about this weekend because, as we've said before, it's the loaded side of the car. The weight transfers on these cars, especially right at this point, goes over the crest at 165 kilometres an hour, turns the car in. It's that right front that cops the punishment. So I'm not surprised that that's the one that's blown. Mark?
Steve Owen, yourself and Danny Studdard, last of the CRG cars out there remaining, but still going strong.
Yeah, we've led quite a few laps, so it's looking good. But I think we're a CPS behind what the lead BMWs have got left to do. So it's a bit hard trying to keep track of strategy of 10 different cars. But yeah, I think we've got one more stop to make in front of those guys.
Is the plan for yourself to do a longer stint towards the end?
It was, but the CPS is so long. We've had quite a long period without safety cars, so Danny's actually doing a great job. So it may end up that he does more of the race than I do, but hopefully the safety car lands in a lap and we can do a pit stop then and get it done under caution.
One of our key contenders is in pit lane and they've gone into the garage. Now, the reason they push a car into the garage is because you can have more people work on the car in there. You're only allowed 4 people plus the car controller over that red line that we documented earlier on. You can have more people work on the car, so they'll throw every one of the resources GWR's got at this car.
Now that, I think, used to be a piston.
Whoa,
oh!
It was, and that is what used to be a Mitsubishi Lancer, but it's now parked in the wall at the top of the chase, and that was a car that was in contention.
Yes.
We just heard from Steve Owen. Danny stuttered behind the wheel. He's got damage significant to the rear and the front. And that's a reasonable impact. That was the secondary impact by the looks of it. It's still running. Can he drive it out of there? There's a lot of debris at the back of it. So let's have a look at what's happened. It's at the chase. It's at high speed. It's 250 k's an hour. So he's got on the brakes. It's locked the rears, and it's belted the fence very, very hard. Lucky it wasn't further along, because it would have tipped into the gravel and gone over. But it just stopped before it got there.
Looked like it only locked the left side, Crailsy, and that it's basically like pulling the handbrake on the car, and it's pitched him in. I don't think you can put anything on the driver for that. That's one of those weird things.
Thanks to Richards. Let's have a look at the way the race is playing out in a key portion as we do go back to safety car. So it's Sharon first, Darren Jorgensen second place in that number 5 BMW, keeps chipping away. Rod Salmon still third in car number 6, the Mercedes. Michael Anderson, the local boys, doing a brilliant job in 4th place in front of Tim Lay, who's up to 5th despite their dramas before. Michael Zalura in car 29 is 6th in the Mercedes-Benz. Then it's a trio of Evo Lancers, and rounding out the top 10 is our A2 leader, Justin Anthony.
As far as the classes are concerned, we know that Ian Sherrin is leading A1 and Justin Anthony is leading A2 in that glorious sounding 6.3 engined Mercedes-Benz C63, which had some drama early on, so it's done well to come back to the lead. Keith Bensley behind the wheel of the leading B1 BMW. The red line still leads. Tony Vidag behind the wheel of the 69 B2 leader. Andrew Williams for Class C lead in the 12 Subaru Impreza. The Integra took back the lead, that coupe, the Type R DC2. Matt Windsor behind the wheel of the 47 in Class D. And David Worrell is behind the wheel, having taken over from that Iron Man stint from his teammate, 2 hours and 36 minutes behind the wheel. And the Mazda 3 SP25 still leads E-Class.
As these cars go 4 wide, just down into turn 1. Thank you very much, as you please. And there's contact. A little bit of Subaru to BMW action there, but they get through it. That was hairy.
Luckiest man there, Crailsy, was Kyle Auburn in the Renault, who was outside, the third man on the outside there, and very nearly got 2 cars tipped into him. Didn't happen. He probably doesn't know it happened, actually. He won't realise till he gets home and sees this on replay how lucky he was there at Hell Corner.
And second place in Class C is the Bathurst local there, and the Macca's Bathurst Renault McGann RS265. He and his brother Blake doing a nice job. They're off to do some international racing next weekend in Spain, so that's going to be a big excitement for those guys.
Yeah, I think it's the weekend after, but yeah, you're right, absolutely. They're doing the Creventic, and he's going to get into a prototype LMP3.
It's no Renault McGann, is it?
No, I'll be there for that. Can't wait to see them again. Renew the acquaintance.
This is Carl Begg on board the Mercedes C63 AMG across the top of Mount Panorama. The thrum of an AMG V8.
On the downshift.
16th place on the road, second in A2 class. They're a lap behind the class leader.
Did you ever get to the bottom of what the problem was for them earlier in the race? Because they had shown cracking pace. Remember, this is a car that is exceptionally quick on the straight bits. Doesn't have much aero, quite light over the brows. Grant Sherrin's just gone back into second place in the 27 car, and he's gone past Beric Linton in the 23 to make that pass. That was a really important safety car that brought that 27 car back into the 23 car back into the mix, and the 2 BMWs together on the track now, having passed the Alpha and the Mazda, which I think got out and still leads its class, actually.
It did, yep.
Yeah. And the SP25. Kelso Electrical 53 in the green and white colours going across the top of the mountain. Another one of those local teams. It's great to have it here.
Talking about names, behind the wheels, Schumacher.
Yeah.
Bradley Schumacher, no relation to Michael or Ralph, or young Nick, but doing a really good job. 4th outright at the moment in the STI Subaru. Every single member of that team is from the Bathurst region, so within 20 k's of this racetrack.
Just actually 5 seconds behind 3rd, although not able to hold the place. Being closed on at the moment by Steve Johnson.
Yep.
So take the picture now of the guys at the Kelso Electrical team. Stephen Johnson is behind you.
Yes, but charging up, and in fact last time around was almost 9 seconds faster. The Subaru had some traffic to deal with.
Well done, Brett Strom, who's just rung the fastest lap of the race out, the number 5 BMW in 6th position, a 2:29.8, so under a psychological barrier, the 2 minutes 30. And Brett McFarland in the 57 Subaru Impreza, 2:35.6, their fastest lap of the team. Some of these cars not in contention, maybe in class contention, but they're out there turning fast laps. 3rd place in Class C, Peter Lacey has just done a 2:41.2, the fastest lap of the race for the Volkswagen Scirocco R. Again, people beginning now, Crailsey, just to turn the wick up a little bit, maybe get the quicker drivers in, the drivers who are most comfortable, and say to them, right guys, we're in contention. You know, like Peter sitting there in 3rd in class. Right son, turn it up, let's have a go.
Well, this is definitely the longest green flag run of the day we've had, so everyone just finally getting some seat time and getting some miles in these cars and extending them throughout a stint and seeing what they're like.
I mean, before the last one.
Yeah, and that's been playing really nicely.
I think we've had now safety cars.
And we've just had a lead change because Grant Sharon's gone past Lee Burgess. So for a brief moment, car number 6 led the race and became the 12th different lead change of the race so far. So Sharon now back in front, Burgess relegated to 2nd, and you feel like Barry Linton will probably get past as well. I think the Evos will be all right on brakes. None of the Evo teams have been talking about brakes as being an issue over the course of this weekend.
About the leader there.
Okay,
yeah. So they've got one to do, they're done. 2nd place, Lee Burgess in the Mercedes, they're done. Oh, off at the chase for the 93, the Mitsubishi, trailing a bit of something behind it. I'm not sure that's dirt. Oh, I think he might have done himself a favour and everybody else behind him by going into the pit lane. And we've got the 23 and the 27 absolutely together for the lead, battling through. That gap of the 23 has cut out again, coming out through. Murray's there, just a stutter from the car, or did he just get out of the dirt as he went wide?
He got in the dirt as he went wide because there were 14,000 lap cars in his way. It was really busy there, and those two were scrapping for the race lead. There was nothing they could do with all of the cars fighting over the minor positions behind them. So it was a hairy little moment there, and I think Beric Linton did a nice job of avoiding any damage, and I think in the end he might have just thrown their hands up in the air and said, no, it's not worth it. And this lap car going left, going right, the hands are in the air, he's busy. It's these tension-filled moments that can decide this race. But finally, Beric clears them all. But that was 10th.
That is going to be the story all the way from now on, because there will be traffic, and the two leading cars now. We've got a race at the head of the field with 1 hour and 33 minutes still to go. 11th position for Tony Virag in the 69 car, the red, white and black Holden Commodore. The 6-litre red line, the VF-shaped car. So down at Murray's then, the leader. Oh, did he check up a little bit early? Yeah. And it certainly wasn't the racing line there as the leader, Grant Sharon, came out. Maybe there was a little bit of games being played there. I'm not sure what was going on.
There's 1 hour and 27 seconds to go. The Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 hour. It's far from over. There's 10 cars on the lead lap representing 7 different brands. There's huge diversity in this field, and even though the BMWs have been the pace of the day, this isn't done yet. Lycana almost drops it at the final corner. This will give Jordan Cox a run. Chaz Mostert with 2 wheels off as his par for the course. Watch for Coxie to send it down here at Hill Corner.
And the only one of the leading runners who's still got a full 2-minute 20 stop to do is Bradley Schumacher in that 53 Subaru. They've got one more compulsory stop to do. Everybody else is free down to, I reckon, 10th position, Jeremy Gray. So all the cars on the lead lap, bar that 53, have done their compulsory stops.
But when that Subaru does its compulsory stop, it should be right to go to the end.
Correct.
Their fuel economy is significantly better than the cars around it.
And here's the question for me. They've got the 220 to do. Do they push that as long as they can and hope for a safety car? Or do they take it the very moment that they know they can get it to the end from there? They know it's going to take 220, and then if there's a safety car, they stay out and they hold their track position.
Well, it's a bit of column A and a bit of column B, because it may be force majeure. Go as long as you can before the safety car comes out.
Jordan Cox is being Jordan Cox at the moment and throwing around the number 7.
Oh, no, he doesn't. Surely not up the inside.
He's done it. There he does.
Oh, wow.
He's done that. I've seen him do that before in other cars.
He got a really good run. Lycono was slow coming out of Reed Park, at a big wobble in the number 14 car, so he was already compromised. And Jordan Cox goes up the inside at McPhillamy. Add that to the YouTube highlights reel.
Yeah, that's another one. He's like a barracuda, isn't he? You can smell blood from a moment away. Down the inside. It was, you know what? It's clean as a whistle as well, and he gets to the apex. That's fast but fair driving. And Paul Lycono doesn't even really have to modify his line.
No, he did a nice job. Just gave him the room. I would bet that he said, "Oh, he's going to go here, isn't he? I'll just open the steering wheel a little bit, turn in a bit later, and let him go through."
We'll stay with the classes for the compact cars and go to the leader of the E-Class with Becky.
We sure do. We've got Andrew McMaster, the leader of Class E, as you were saying. Andrew, talk us through the day. How have the challenges been for you guys?
So far, so good. It's been pretty much plain sailing. Everything's gone to plan so far. We just got to keep it together for the last little while and hopefully end up with a class win.
Becky, this is their car on screen now, limping back to pit lane with a right front puncture. Not the first time we've seen it today. David Worrell is behind the wheel. The first in Class E car is limping back to the lane, so that's why that interview cut short. So he's going to jump in.
Yeah. Now, that is the best commentator's curse, or the worst commentator's curse. Anyway, we start talking about it. That car's not had a triple. Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Becky may have just taken the record.
You couldn't screw that, could you?
You really couldn't.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, guys.
We're really sorry. And a spin for the big Monaro down at Murray's corner. A nice flick spin for the big Monaro down at Murray's corner, and it will resume position.
I think there might have been a bit of off-track action going on there.
Yeah, you're right, there was.
Came into Murray's corner on not the conventional racing line, because he was a car's width on the grass, and actually going backwards, which is also slightly less than conventional.
David Radat's going slowly. He's third in Class C in the Alpha, 30th outright, and limping back, or is he? Is he stopping? And if he stops there, this will unquestionably pause the motor race.
On the rise at the end of Conrod Straight. Now, that car was going fine over the top of the mountain when we saw it a moment or two as Bradley Schumacher went by him, so something's happened.
Now we're under safety car. I was waiting for it. We're under safety car, and it's going to be awkwardly timed for a whole lot of reasons.
53 in the pit lane. Perfect timing. They've got one full stop to do, and Bradley Schumacher, called in by Luke Bell, the team strategist, gets that absolutely spot on time. Well done, Belly.
So pending driving time, they can go to the end. That for me now is the biggest question mark, and I think it'll be answered. If Grant Sharon and Beric Linton pit, they are okay on driver time and they can go to the end.
Ooh, so a little false start there over the line for the
18 feet tall George Medicki. So when the head's leading out a long way, it's a lot to pivot out over that height, but he'll jump into this car.
It's the FPV Ford.
And Sharon does.
Is in the
and
pit
Linton
lane.
does.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting. We'll watch and see if they do a driver change, but this could be their final pit stop. But I think with an hour to go, especially if it's all green flag running, they are going to battle to get to the end on green flag running.
Heading into the last 55 minutes, he's the top 10 richest leaderboard. Grant Sharon leads Beric Linton, the two BMWs at the head of the field from Stephen Johnson. We're under our 8th safety car. Then it's Bet Strom in the BMW, then the second of the Mercedes, with Lee Burgess behind the wheel is the number 6 car. Top 7 with Jordan Cox, top 6 rather, with the number 7 of Jordan Cox in the pit lane at the moment. All A1 cars. Chris Lillis in the Holden HSV GTS, the 64 A2 car, will be a top 6 car when he comes round next time around, and the top 10 made up with the A1 class runners, including that local 53 car Bradley Schumacher stayed aboard the Subaru. Here's how it looks for the classes. Sharon and Lillis we've talked about in A1 and A2. Lindsay Cairns in the B1 leader, the Subaru Impreza WRX in the 8 car. The 62 is the B2 leader, that's a Holden Redline, and that car sitting just outside the top 10 at the moment. It's a cracking run for them. Subaru leads Class C in the hands of Andrew Williams with the number 12 car, the 47 Honda Integra, back to the lead with David Baker in Class D after fighting his way through. And our final class leader on the Newton Power class leaderboard is Mark Griffith with the Toyota Echo in the compact car class.
Brett Strom is behind the wheel, the American driver of car number 5. They are fueled to the finish and will get to the end.
And remember, they got in, we talked about it, those 2 cars, the 5 and the 6, they got in before the leaders were able to get into the pit lane. They turned the cars around, there was no timed component to their pit stops, and that's how they got out ahead. No way! The Monaro is throwing a bit of smoke out the back.
This is really awkward, and it wouldn't surprise me. No, the safety car will come in. It's going to split the field again. We're going to have a bunch of cars out of sequence and a long way behind. And this field will be shaken up a little bit, And they've not done a good job there, to be honest, of everyone keeping their 5 car lengths apart. There's supposed to be 5 car lengths when it goes green. Well, it certainly wasn't. So race control will have a look at that. We wait for the leader to cross the line. They're a bit further back in the queue in the BMW 1M. So it will be Brett Strom in front.
Yeah, he's gone through. Yep.
And
that was him going through.
Lee Burgess in second place in the Mercedes-Benz. Then the number 27 car, the Sharon Rentals entry, currently running in 3rd place. They will be the fastest car on the racetrack, but they're
once
buried in
clear traffic. Yes, once the clear traffic. 14 picking way through, as well as James Vernon, and he's not on the lead lap. He's not far off the lead lap because the leaders are just ahead of him, being those BMW and Mercedes we've been mentioning. 7.5 seconds across the line between Strom and Burgess first and second, and then the 27 BMW was right there. So if the traffic is played out, I would expect to see the BMW already in second place, but I have no clue at the moment because of the thruppity mix-up.
Oh, that's gone! Big accident. Yes, in the wall, the Scirocco, and it was turned around by the Sharon BMW. He looked up the inside. You could hear the screech of tyres.
3rd in Class C, the Scirocco. It's a big hit. The rear hatch is open, Crailsey.
And car 27's just been black flagged. Not sure why yet, but they're going to get a black flag. This is race-changing stuff. That was a big moment, and Tim Lay just putting his race suit on again, which is very, very interesting. So I wonder if there's another stop to come from the number 23 BMW M3. Our understanding is now that car 27's black flag was for a yellow flag infringement. Now, of course, they cannot take that under safety car, must do it under green flag conditions.
In the meantime, the safety car's in the pits. We're going back to green flag racing here with 42 minutes to go, and it's a race to the finish. And we are off and running. The green flags are out in front of us, and through goes Brett Strom with Lee Burgess coming across the line now, and right in behind the 45 car trying to get a lap back from the leader, but the Mercedes is not in the fight as they go through Hell Corner up the mountain straight for the 96th time. We're going to be close to a distance record as well here, depending on how green we go. How green is your valley? Up towards Griffin Bend. Now, come on, just let him go. Let the Merc go. There's no sense in fighting him. You're not battling him. He could turn you around at Griffin Bend and you're offline. That's not smart driving. Not smart driving at all from Brett Strom, who's been doing a great job in that BMW recently and has been setting fastest lap after fastest lap for that car. And finally, the 45 goes around the outside and gets a lap back. But that car, now with Garth Walden at the wheel, is back on the lead lap, but just on the back of the lead lap.
And Grant Sharon has pitted and served his drive-through penalty. There he goes.
Right.
So he's now good to go to the end, but he's a long way behind in terms of track position. Clear racetrack, so he'll be able to fly, but when you're 60-odd seconds behind, that's a lot of flying you need to do to get that gap back. There's 40 minutes to go in the motor race as well. That's the gap first to second now as they run into the chase. So Brett Strom is going to find himself under some pretty serious pressure in a very short space of time. And the irony here is that Beric Linton has just traded out of a BMW 1M into the BMW M3 he's driving now. It's a 1M he's chasing. So his old car's in front, the new one hunting it down. Let's see if he can get him. Compare lap times that time around on a restart. 30.4 for Brett Strom. Very handy. Beric Linton, 2:26.0. Fastest lap of the entire motor race so far.
By a margin through Hell Corner. And the leaders now are two BMWs, not perhaps, Thrillsy, the two BMWs that we might have expected to see. The Scirocco has gone back into the garage and they're just stringing it up to make sure that the front wheels are pointing in the right direction after hitting the wall.
We've had a lead change. Beric Linton's in front of the motor race outright.
Already?
Yeah, he's passed Brett Strom last time around. And it's a 1 second margin already. Johnson looks down the inside. So the moment this is the fight for third place, the final step on the podium. You got good drive out of the corner there, Johnson, but this is a battle of equals here. Two identical cars prepared by different teams. He's got a good drive out. A little bit of a toe, perhaps, a side draft now.
I thought Burgess made a slight mistake.
Friendly wave from Johnson, and that's third position changes hands. So the leaders swapped hands, so to third place. Johnson now P3.
Becky's in the leading pit.
Ian, I came into this garage and there looked to be a little bit of a confusion on everybody's face. Did we not know that we had to pit?
Look, we had to come in and change the tyre from the damage that was sustained in the accident up there, and we hadn't got the emails through, so I think you told us that we had a black flag, so we checked that, and we called Grant in and served that penalty, and hopefully we can just go out there now and lay some good times and get back up there.
And now there's another drama, and this is one of the B2 Commodores, a 24 car?
Yep, second in class. This is the car that has won the B2 class the last 2 years in a row. The only car to win its class on both occasions previously in the Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6-hour, with Brian Walden, Richard Bloomfield and Michael Auld sharing the driving duties. And safety car. Timed. The Hi-Tec Oils safety car is on the racetrack.
He should have stayed out. Walden should have stayed out. He would have held the lead lap. He's going to lose the lead lap now.
He has, you're right. Yep.
Should have stayed out first. He'd have got round, he'd have got the wave by, he'd have been back on the end of the lead lap, and then he could have pitted next time by. That's poor strategy, I'm afraid.
What this does is brings the Sherrans back into the race. And they're now no longer 45 seconds behind. They might be 10 seconds behind somewhere back in the queue. And shaking his head is Garth Walden.
Before we go back to green, we'll pick up a little more from the pit lane. Here's Becky.
We are. I'm with Darren Jorgensen, currently in second place. Started from P12 on the grid today, Darren. It's been a big day, but great effort by yourself.
It has. It's been awesome. We had a very good start. We drove the car to P5 to give me the car. Fell back a bit. I took it over with, I think we were in P11 or P12. I drove a 3-hour stint nonstop. Got out of the car with our car in P2. And Brett took it back over, drove it from P5 to P1. And now we just got overtaken in the last lap. Now we still have a shot at it. 30 minutes left. We'll go for it.
There they go. That's their go point. But wait, they've got to get past that Renault Megane before they can do anything. And so Johnson's going to be 4 or 5 seconds behind here when they get clear and when they get racing.
Watch the big Merc. Pulls out past 1, past 2, 3 abreast going into Hell Corner, and the big number 90 just breezes through. Obviously just hit resume on the cruise control there. And Steve Johnson is following that big Merc up the mountain straight. He's so smooth and cool and calm, and there's a paucity of movement behind the wheel, just tapping away at the right-hand side. He's not even flicking the paddle there. I'm not sure what changes he's making.
He's flashing the lights. That's what he's doing. That's the
what
light
he is
flasher.
doing. Yes, exactly right.
He's that guy on the motorway that won't drop his high beams. But he's got every reason to, because he's got lap cars in front of him that he needs out of the way. But I think Stevie Day's best bet is to follow this AMG down, maybe get a tow from him, sneak a couple of extra Ks an hour out.
Yeah.
So the battle for second place is the one we're watching. Grant Sherran, 10 seconds from the lead. He was 5 seconds behind Lee Burgess as they crossed the line to commence or to resume the motor race. And that'll be the fight for 4th place.
And there's the pass in terms of the Merc AMG. The little 2-litre turbocharged car breezes past the 6.3 AMG.
Yeah, I think he let him go there.
Yeah,
He lifted right out of it, as is the right thing to do. Oh, wow, that's a wheel.
There's a wheel off.
That was a wheel bouncing off the road, and it's from the P2 car. Is it to tyre?
Well, is it from the leader then? There was definitely something in the middle of the road, and it's not from the BMW. In second place, Brett Strom is fine.
Oh, it is!
It is the leader! It's the leader! And the wheel is actually about to put a lap on the car that it's come from. It's a right-hand side wheel and tyre combination, and it's just come right off this carnage at the top of the mountain at Skyline and into the S's. And is that another broken wheel? Oh, I think it's a broken wheel. And it's gone through. Everybody's checking up. Great driving by everybody.
It's peak hour on William Street. This is ridiculous. They're all trying to avoid this, and they're going to have more dramas. It's going to bounce across and collect the tyre bundle at the dipper. It's not going to stop. It's a 1 in 6 gradient at Mount Panorama. We're back under safety car. That thing's going to keep rolling in perpetuity. And the race changes again, and the lead handed back to the number 5 BMW. It's still rolling.
People are here.
It's not going to stop.
Going. The wheel's going to get a lap time here.
It's gone down to the elbow. It's gone almost a full kilometre now. It's gone from the dipper all the way down through the S's. It continues to roll. It might stop there at the end of the tyre bundle. Yes, its friend saved it. Its friend stopped its wayward troll down towards Conrod Straight, and it stops. And it's parked, and that ordeal for that poor wheel and tyre is over.
As we head to the pit lane, and Tim Lake is talking to Mark Walker.
Tim, Bathurst, how heartbreaking.
Yeah, mate. 20 minutes from the end, he had 10 laps to go. Probably, you know. I got on the headset, mate. You're going really good. You're doing a great job. Just keep it up. And anyway, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I cursed him, but you know, it's a hard pill to swallow because they've built that car from the ground up in a matter of 6 months for the race, and it was great car for the weekend. It was doing a great job. It's a shame we couldn't pull it off, but it's motor racing. There's plenty of people worse off in the world than in a motor race, so we'll move on. Tomorrow's another day.
We're back racing. The green flags fly on a stunning Easter Sunday at Mount Panorama, and this race has delivered everything that you would expect an endurance race at this place would do every single time. Here we go. Brett Strom, unknown American to the Australian audiences, taking on a household name in Stephen Johnson.
Stephen needs to pick his battles here because he's got a bit of time, but not much, because Grant Sherrin will be picking his way through the traffic. He's got a couple of lap cars to go before he starts battling with Lee Burgess, who's the 6 BMW, who's just ahead of him. It's the black and yellow car from the front. It's got a bit of red on it from the back. And he's already on him. Going to Griffins now.
Here he goes. Sent it to the outside. It's a long way round. The BMW goes defensive. It'll compromise his exit, but it's very difficult to pass on the run up to the cutting.
That was for the lead. Johnson in the 29 car in second, behind the BMW, the 5 car, the black machine that leads, and the battle for second and third. In fact, through.
Third.
Yeah, third's gone through. Grant Sherrin's already gone through. So he's dealt with Lee Burgess and now sets off after the leaders. This car, fast. Is it going to last?
Stephen needs to get past Brett Strom quickly, because that M4, is going to come blazing up behind these two, and in a straight line it will drive past them.
How close to the wall for Brett Strom up at the metal grate there. He was at a bit of a flat slide, somehow just managed to keep his foot in. The little 1M is very nimble indeed as he starts the downhill stretch. Down through to the dipper and then the S's. He's throwing it at the corners.
He's hanging on.
Stevie, I think Stevie will be impressed with that. No doubt. Steve's got a few laps around here under his belt, and he's watching Brett Strom doing a pretty decent job of staying ahead of him at the moment. Meantime, at the elbow, the Forest elbow, the big Mercedes is there as well, and that could be a bit of trouble for the BMW if the Merc gets ahead of him.
He's got a good run here, Stephen Johnson. He's in the toe, so the Merc's been pretty decent in a straight line, and Strom covered his line. He defended, now he moves back across. Now they're wheel to wheel into the chase and around the outside. Stephen Johnson wrestles the lead of the 6 hour away from the BMW.
And he was right on the ragged edge of adhesion, breaking into the chase, and the BMW is not finished. Gets a good run under the Hi-Tec Hi-Tec Oil Bridge and will have to go around the outside in the final corner at Murray's. And all the time, the second BMW is getting closer. They're side by side at the braking area. Man, that was brave by Brett Strom. Great driving from both. That's super stuff from these two. But watch behind for the Sherrins Reynolds cars. They're going into hell corner. Sun in the eyes as they turn in. Down to second, maybe third gear, depending on how you've got the car geared. And now the top three go up Mountain Straight together.
And Sherrin's about to be P2 here. In fact, he could be first. He's got a really good run out of hell corner, and he drives past one BMW. Now there's a Mercedes to worry about. Sherrin is second. Now he's almost first. Around the outside, but Johnson's got the defensive line.
And we've seen before that the little four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive AMG A45 is good into Griffin Bend. We saw Beardo defending there from the other BMW, and look, the little 1 Series was right in there on the brakes as well. Clearly the 27 car hasn't got the braking ability of the lighter cars and the more nimble cars, but what it's got is horsepower.
Stephen is going to have to put the best middle sector he has ever done at Mount Panorama in 30 odd years of racing here to beat that car, because he needs to find a couple of seconds over that Sherrin Rentals BMW. Personal best laps for the first 3 cars last time round. Sherrin in the 26s, Johnson with a 28.5.
29.3 for Brett Strom. All green times. That means the best lap for that car of the race. The sun starting to be an issue at certain parts of the circuit, and then Brett Strom is not letting Grant Sherrin have any kind of rest at all as they come down the hill. He's not going to get a pass on him, but he's making him look in his mirror. He's actually doing Stephen Johnson a little bit of a solid here as they come through Forest's Elbow. Oh, slide there from the Sherrin's car. Got to keep those rear tyres under that, because if they go away, it will dull his ability to fight. Stephen Johnson just has a little scratch of the ear. He's just sitting on Conrod, sitting in the middle of the track. He knows he's got to make this car wide in the faster parts of the circuit, coming down towards the right-hander. He's done enough to this point, Creelsey. That's great driving, but now he's got to get it stopped at the chase.
Yeah, Mountain Straight for me is the issue, because the Sherrin car pulls all the margin it lost across the top of the mountain back down Conrod. Then it uses its horsepower and torque to its advantage up the hill. The drag race up to turn 2. Johnson defends. This is the battle for the lead. There's 6 minutes to go in this race, and they're fighting like it's a 5-lap sprint. Across the line they go, into the setting sun. Grant Sherrin sails through. It's another lead change in the final 10 minutes, and now the BMW M4 leads the race.
Oh, and Sherrin stood up the 29 car as well at the corner, at the apex at Hell corner. Straight away, Johnson gets into the slipstream of the faster car, but he's pulling away gradually. There might still be half a chance here. If Johnson is close enough, that BMW ahead of him has to brake quite early for Griffin Bend, but it's too much to ask. There's a car ahead, could be a factor. No, it's not going to be, and he just couldn't hold on to it. But now we'll get the run over the top of the mountain, and can he put some pressure on Grant Sherrin? Now what he's got to do is get the main beam on and make himself as wide as possible, move from side to side, try and get Grant Sherrin to take his eye off the ball. Second on the podium, second overall, and down the outside, Strom tries an audacious manoeuvre at the chase. He's got to hold on to the right-hand side of the track. He does. He's got 2 Hancocks on the dirt. It's the pass on the dirt, not the pass on the grass, but he's now on the wrong side under the Hi-Tec bridge. And Steve Johnson just holds on to second, and the Echo is in the pit lane as they went by through Murray's for what I think will be the penultimate time.
That is the class leader limping back, so late drama in Class E. Our attention is on for the final step on the podium.
Magnificent.
What a race this is. Grant Sherrin now out in front to the margin of 3.3 seconds. Just needs to strike the big M4 home for Sherrin Rentals Racing, reigning Australian production car champions. Johnson doing everything he can to defend from this BMW 1M. There's the leader, past the Suzuki Swift. Here is the fight for second and third. Johnson flashing the lights. Let the lap traffic know he's there.
He does not want to be held up at all here, because the BMW is very, very strong from Griffin's right over the top, and they're side by side as they head towards the cutting. The Suzuki Swift might be a little bit of a blocky car, and he's nodding through. And second place goes through. He had to lift. Steve Johnson had to lift because of the Suzuki. Nothing that the Suzuki could do. Stayed on his line, but that was an audacious, bold and brilliant move from Brett Strom. That is a super overtake at any time in the race, and when you're on the last lap of the 2018 Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour, that is close to genius.
That was big, I feel, for Steve, though, because there was nothing he could do there. He had to get out of the throttle or it would have been a very large accident. He's not done yet, though. This car's been good down Conrod. He needs a good run through the final sector of the lap. That's just allowed the Sherrans to pull away a little bit further.
We will complete 109 laps in the 2018 Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour, and it's been drama since before the green flag, with cars not getting to the start line, starting in the pit lane. Overnight changes to the balance of performance and the specification of the car that will win the race. Drama right to the end as well, as second place is far from secure. Second and third are within half a car's length now. Steve Johnson goes to the right hand side, car off on the grass as they go through it. Yellow flags would have been out there, but he hasn't made the pass yet. Now down into the chase. Johnson has done it here in the past. Can he get it stopped? It's going to be the dash down to Murray's and then across the line. Grant Sherrin is going to win it for the BMW M4, but who's second, Quilty?
The fight is on right down to the line. We wait for the Sherrin BMW. No confirmation of final lap yet, incidentally. We'll wait and see that. They're going to go around again.
No way.
No, checkered flag. Sherrin's win. Fight for second. Goes to the line. Johnson misses out. It was a late call for the checkered flag. Right as the Sherrin car crossed the line. But Grant and Ian Sherrin win the Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour. What a race. What a finish. Stevie J threw everything at that. They were late dropping the flag there on the Sherrins as they crossed the line. Johnson dropped everything he could, including two wheels off the road, to try and get there. And Brett Strom has just driven the race of his life. Punching the air was the number 63 Subaru. I think they got to the finish. Confirm when they finished there. That's Schumacher and Anderson, the local drivers. 53 it was, 12th place in the end, 8th in Class A1. This is the Class C leading car, Andrew Williams across the line. They will win their class in a dominant performance in the Subaru. They're a long way in front of their nearest rivals. A2 goes the way of the AMG C63. They finished 7th outright. David Baker in car 47, that's the Honda Integra. They won Class D. Let's go down to Becky Lamb with a very, very happy Ian Sherrin.
Absolutely, Richard Crowe. We have a very happy Ian. Congratulations. Tell me what this elation feels like.
Oh, it's just unbelievable. We've been trying to do this for a few years, and it's just awesome. It's great for Grant. Really appreciate Dad's effort today as a team manager and all the boys, and I've got my son here with me today as well, so yeah, I'm just ecstatic.
Grant Sherrin and his brother Ian win the Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour to add to their championship in Australian production car racing last year. Strom and Jorgensen was second. Johnson, Woods and Zalura, a well-deserved podium for the number 29 Mercedes. Burgess and Salmon fourth in another AMG A45. Vernon, Locchiano and Lone ultimately finished fifth. That's a really impressive performance, and first Mitsubishi home. Walden and Baird home in sixth place. Begg and Anthony in the AMG I mentioned. The big V8 car in A2 in seventh place. Medicare and Gray were next. Lewis Callahan in ninth, and Howard, Krinalos and Virag, as I said, rounding out the top 10. An incredible day at the Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour. The crowd has assembled behind the podium to take us through it. Here's John Hindhoff.
Thanks, Richard. Well, once again, Bathurst has delivered. Let's get to the podium celebrations. In third, let's bring out the AMG Mercedes-Benz crew from Commercial Interior Projects, Rob Woods, Marcel Ziller and Stephen Johnson. And presenting the trophy, our event organiser James O'Brien from Yeehaw Events. Second position for Darren Jorgensen, Cameron Lawrence and Brett Strom for BMW, and for RHC, Strom Lawrence by Mark Cars. Presenting Graham Hanger, the Mayor of Bathurst, and our 2018 Hi-Tec Oils Bathurst 6 Hour winners, the Sherrin's Rentals BMW M4, Grant and Ian Sherrin. Presenting George Gambino from our sponsor Hi-Tec Oils. A2, extreme performance, naturally aspirated. What a drive this was from the big 6.3, Carl Begg and Justin Anthony. One of the fan favourite cars in Class B1 for high performance forced induction. Patrick Galang, Keith Bensley and Scott Gore. Class B2 for the high-performance, naturally aspirated cars, Brett Howard, Tony Virag and Joe Canlos. Class C performance, and our winners here, Kevin Stoopman, Andrew Williams and Gavin Ross. And our Class D production winners, David Baker, Matt Windsor, Brian Callaghan for Honda in the pole sitting Integra Type R. Our Class E compact battle was just as enthralling as what was going on at the head of the field. David Worrell, David Noble and Andrew McMaster.
What an amazing race it's been from Mount Panorama. An incredible day of high drama from all of us here. We thank you for watching. Have a very safe and happy Easter. And until we meet again, it's goodbye from Mount Panorama.